afternoon. Good morning to those on the West Coast. Patrick and Connor, thank you very much. Gregg Peterson with Bexson Biomedical, joined by Jeff Becker, the company's chief scientific officer and co-founder. And I really appreciate Microdose making this platform available. I am going to share a screen so we can share some slides. And we may not be able to see questions as they're happening, but certainly would be very happy and look forward to answering questions after our presentation. So I'm going to share my screen here, and Jeff, I will make it your responsibility. Let me know if this does not show correctly. As that loads up, I'll just comment. Bexson Biomedical was formed about 3 years ago, and we were specifically looking at new ways to utilize ketamine. Jeff will talk more about ketamine in a moment. He knows the compound very well. He's used it clinically and otherwise. And it's a hot drug in the mental health space, recently approved by J&J, and that's all well and good. There's also 50 years of data showing that ketamine is a very effective therapy for treating pain. And there's a opioid crisis going on right now. And so we pivoted to the pain space. And really, Bexson's value proposition is that at-home use of low-dose ketamine can be a game changer for treating both chronic and acute pain types. And our company has a technology and the IP platform to make that available. We specifically are focused on, as I say, pain management, which is a $66 billion a year market globally. Our lead indication is post-operative pain following surgery. This is a $12 billion a year market in the US alone, and all of our analysis says it is a gateway indication to the opioid crisis. 160,000 Americans a year get addicted to, misuse, or abuse opioids following surgery. If you want to move the needle on the opioid crisis, which is unfortunately getting worse with COVID, the gap is that you need to provide a non-opioid therapy that is opioid level efficacy that patients can go home with. That's really how you're going to go and move the needle on that. And that's what we're looking to provide. Until Jeff joins in, he really is the expert. He's used ketamine clinically for about 15 years. It is a very effective drug. Again, there's 50 years of data in the literature showing its efficacy. Just briefly, the graph there on the right is ketamine up against Demerol. Demerol is an extremely powerful opioid, really only used for pain crisis in the ER, and it's actually not even used that much anymore because it can be unsafe if given too much. But with this set of patients here, you had ketamine more effective than Demerol, and admittedly, these are using higher doses than what we're probably going to use. But even 12 hours out after the patient's administration, they were still getting pain management, and yet ketamine has a very short half-life. It's out of your system in a couple hours, and yet you do have that pain management patients are experiencing 12 hours out with 50% reduction in pain. What this speaks to is ketamine's ability to do a reset on the central nervous system, or in the case of pain, at the pain receptor level, at the dorsal horn level, and also the central nervous system. It does an unlearning of that pain signal. And that's something that is just very unique and very different, almost the opposite of how opioids work. Ketamine is also a very safe drug. Used safely, used properly, it is very safe, and there's data showing that in the literature for patients aged 8 to 93. But ketamine does have two problems. First one, as I mentioned, it's got a very short half-life. Another problem is, three problems really. Another problem is it has low bioavailability if taken orally. And then the third problem is, how do you patent something that's been around for 60 years? And that is what Bexson really spent a lot of time on, doing feasibility work to address that. Before we launched Bexson, we had to answer three questions with a yes. The first question is, can we get FDA approval for this? Number two, is there a market for this? And number three, can we get IP protection? Only when we answered yes to all three of those for ourselves did we move forward.
So you did a great job explaining the pharmacology. The point here is that there's never been found anything that has the potency of ketamine in pain management. It can basically make pain disappear almost completely, depending on the dosing. And the magic in this is that you can treat pain acutely and stop the production of chronic pain simultaneously. Current currently all of our pain management techniques that we have basically increase the problem of chronic pain development over time. If you give a single dose of an opioid for acute pain management, it's been shown that after that dose, even a single dose, people's pain can be worse than it was when it started. And that's really what has driven the problems with medication and pain management in human beings for many centuries, actually, with the opioid molecule scaffold. So it's really exciting to bring something that actually has potency and actually solves that chronic pain problem.
Yeah, fantastic. And I'll just take it from here in terms of what we've done. Again, there's a lot of less than ideal routes of administration.
Where were we? We're
ketamine.
Now at the device.
Just going to poke in here, Dr.
Yeah.
Jeff, if you oh, never mind.
Yeah, I'll take it. Jeff, if you can hear me, you're going in and out. So I'm just going to take the next couple slides here and maybe we'll retest.
I think we got that with the video turned off. As long as the video is turned off, the audio comes through stronger.
Right on. Apologies. Yeah, you're coming in and out though still. So what we're doing is we're going to be delivering ketamine subcutaneously using existing technology. The pump that you see here is very similar to what's already FDA approved to deliver insulin to diabetes patients. We don't necessarily want to be revolutionary in this space. We want to leverage existing technology. So we're talking about something, though, that can deliver a therapeutically relevant dose of ketamine and keep it on board. That's the gap right now. There's no way to deliver ketamine and keep it on board. Intranasal delivery, intramuscular delivery, lozenges, all the other routes of administration, except for intravenous, get a very high dose on board, and it crosses the blood-brain barrier, and you get these dissociative effects. You get some cognitive impairment. And to be fair, that's actually the effect you want when you're treating depression, when you're treating a lot of these other mental health indications. We don't need that really, really high dose on board to treat pain. So again, we want to get a dose on board and then keep it on board for that pain management, but to reduce the cognitive impairment so patients can still use that at home. Again, that's the big gap in the space that we're trying to go after. So again, the pump you see here, leveraging existing technology, but there are some unique features we need to put in place of that to reduce the risk, to increase tamper resistance and the risk of diversion. We've partnered up with a group called Stevanato Group. It is a company that's been around since actually 1947. Initially was based in Europe, and their headquarters are still in Italy where they were founded, but they really have R&D and manufacturing facilities globally at this point. They do about $650 million a year in sales. And Bexson has spent literally the past 2 years trying to find the right technology and also the right partner to move forward with. Stevanato did due diligence on us, and we did due diligence on them. And we're very excited to be partnering with them going forward. Again, we will be co-developing the subcutaneous pump that we're going to be using together to deliver our therapy. And again, we're talking about something that's minimally invasive. It's wearable. It's inexpensive. It's durable. It's a very, very small needle. You barely know you have it on. And then what we're doing is pairing that pump with our BB106 proprietary formulation of ketamine. Ketamine is the active ingredient, but we've made several changes to it, both to increase patient comfort, and we end up resulting in a formulation that we believe we should be able to get patent protection on. Bexson is being very proactive in the IP space and really trying to provide a very large moat and very large patent portfolio around this. We've been working with Wilson Sonsini, doing all of our IP work from the start, and they've drafted all of our patent applications. We have 3 patent families so far. The first one is specific to, it's a use patent to deliver ketamine subcutaneously for a wide variety of both pain management and mental health indications. And this is where I'm going to pause and say that we are laser focused on pain management. That said, we're creating a treatment platform that can be leveraged for a wide variety of other pain management, but also mental health indications. What we have could be applied, and we think is a better route of administration for depression, for a wide variety of mental health indications that ketamine is already being used for. A second patent family is specific to our proprietary formulation. We've actually accelerated that patent to be a track 1 in the US, and we're already engaged with the US PTO reviewer on that. And then I know I said we weren't trying to be a device company, but we've also filed a third patent family specific to tamper-resistant and delivery optimization features of that delivery device. I mentioned postoperative pain is our lead indication. Cancer pain, chronic pain, depression are other ones that we can move into quite rapidly as follow-on indications. And then there's another use case that actually clinically is maybe the most exciting. Ketamine is already replacing morphine for treating pain on the battlefield in austere environments. Morphine suppresses your respiration rate, suppresses your blood pressure, and it has unfortunately led to accidental overdose deaths going all the way back to the US Civil War. Ketamine supports your blood pressure, it supports your respiration rate, which is what makes it so good to use in those sort of environments. And the military is already using ketamine, but again, they're delivering these less than ideal routes of administration. So we're engaging with the military to see if we could apply our technology to that. The really exciting part is that data shows when you use ketamine during or right after a traumatic event, the incidence of developing PTSD goes down dramatically. In one study with burn patients, the incidence of developing PTSD went down 41%. So we're talking about a therapy where we're going to be preventing pain graduating from acute to chronic pain. We're going to be preventing opioid use and thus opioid addiction. We're going to be preventing PTSD. There's a lot of fantastic therapies that are out there to try to treat these diseases. We want to prevent those diseases. So on top of a good clinical use case, we think there's an extremely strong health economic model for the therapy that we're going to be using. Right now, we're projecting FDA approval out in 2026. This is our base case. Sometimes the FDA can throw you curveballs, but what this also doesn't take into account is we're going to be applying for fast track and breakthrough designation from the FDA. We think we would fit into those categories quite well. That could potentially accelerate this timeline forward. The other thing I'll mention is that there's a lot of value inflection points over the next couple of years, be it getting potentially a patent in hand, generating some of this early data, getting the pump a little bit further along, will be very impactful for Bexson. The other thing that I would say is that after we run the phase 1 studies, we could then expand into a wide variety of programs. And maybe it's after phase 1, maybe it's after phase 2A in acute pain. That's when we could graduate to a wide number of other programs and really expand the use case for our technology dramatically. Right now, Bexson is, initially Bexson was self-funded. We then raised about $600K in a convertible debt round that was completed back in 2019. We're currently in a Series A raise to raise $4 million. And we are about 3/4 way through that. We have about $3 million of that money in the door. We are continuing to meet and talk with new investors, hoping to finish that round in the near future, but we always want to be introduced to investors for potential future rounds. In parallel, we're applying for grants with both the U.S. Army as well as the NIH. We've got one grant application in with the U.S. Army for $3.5 million. This would represent non-dilutive funding for the business, and that benefits investors as well. It would also, be a really nice engagement with the federal government for a very exciting use case.